Hello again, and welcome to another sound design tutorial. Today we're going to be moving on from bullets and gunshot sound effects, and we're going to be looking at some sword ringing sound effects. So maybe you're doing a short film where somebody pulls a sword from a sheath, and you want a big long ring to ring out and really, catch the viewer's attention. This is what this is for. We're going to be looking at two sort of versions on how I've done it. One which is aimed for more of a realistic sound. The other's more of a epic, over-the-top, dramatic sound. We're just going to be looking at some of the ways that I sort of go about making the sword sound effects and making them sound a bit more detailed. So the first thing we're going to look at is what I've recorded here. As you can see, I've got two tracks of audio here and here, and I've got two MIDI tracks here, which I'll explain in a sec. But first, let's look at the audio. So the first thing we've got, the high ring. Let's have a listen to this. So I got that simply by getting a spatula, and I think I got I can't quite remember. I think it was a metal ladle of some sort. It was a big metal spoon, whatever it was. So I got them two, and I rigged them together because spatulas work quite well for this kind of thing. If you're interested in making these kind of sounds, you've probably seen them on YouTube. A lot of people using spatulas, and yes, they work really well to get that sort of standard ring sound. But we're going to add a little bit more to this because on its own, it's not bad, but it could do with a bit more detail. So next, I've got a low ring sound. Now, the way I got this was I got the oven trays that come with the oven that you pull out and you put stuff on, you push it back in. They gave a really nice ring as well. So I did the same thing. I don't think I used a spatula. I think I just used the metal ladle, and I just rubbed that against the metal trays, and that gave a sort of a deeper ring, which is a nice contrast to the high ring we've got here. Oh, by the way, let's just quickly have a look at what I've done over here. Not too much, bit of compression, a bit of EQ. For the high one, it was a little bit too high here, between 5 and 10k, so I pulled that out a bit. The low ring, I say low, it's more of a middly kind of ring. I boosted a few of the mid lows here, as you can see. And again, a little bit of compression. Okay, cool. So those are the two audio tracks we're working with. Let's have a listen. So it's not sounding too bad already. What I've also done, as you can see, is added some MIDI tracks to, again, add some more detail to the sound. So as you can see, this one, all I've done is got some noise. And the idea of this was just to get some low end, because obviously these two didn't really provide much. Now there's probably a few ways. You can probably record stuff to get low end, but I've just used some noise just because I felt it kind of worked. I kind of got away with it. Maybe you'd want to record something. I've seen on YouTube you can record like you can record like dustbins being rattled and EQ that to give it a low endy kind of metal sound. You could do that as well, but for this, I found that the noise worked quite well. So as you can see, I've EQ'd it. I've took out a lot of mids, well, most of the mids and the highs. Focused on lows to low mids. Distorted it a bit, as you can see, and compressed it a bit. I've also used Logic's ES2 synthesizer, which I've also used for the synth ring track here, which I'll talk about in a sec. If you don't know how to use this, I'm not really going to explain it here. In fact, I'll probably link a tutorial in the description, or you can just type it on YouTube and find out how to use this. There's quite a lot of tutorials out there. But all you really need to know for this, in case you don't, is these three lines here, these three numbers. These are your oscillators. Whenever you're making a sound in the synthesizer, you start with these. You choose what kind of sound or what wave you want. So I chose noise, as you see. In fact, if I change it to a different wave, so I think that's a sawtooth wave I've changed it to. If I change it to that, we can have a listen. We get a different sound. I'm going to stick it on noise, so we get a noisy sound. Cool. So you use these to select your sound. Here are your filters. This is a filter here. This is a filter here, and you choose which one you want to use between the blends. And you've also got your modulating tracks, which you can use to modulate things like the oscillators, the filters, all these effects here. So maybe the chorus, the flanger, the phaser, the distortion. You can modulate them. These down here. This is what you use to determine how you modulate all the stuff up here. So you've got some Lfos, which use different wave patterns to create different effects. So for example, maybe you wanted the sound to sort of come in and out slowly, so it goes warm, warm, warm. What you might do is modulate the amplitude or the volume here with one of these. So you could maybe set it to a sawtooth wave like I've done here. Use one of the LFOs to determine the speed. And you come here and you'd select, where is it? Amplitude, I think. Yes, you select amplitude. And yeah, you do that, and that would create the sort of effect you were going for. And you could do that with, nearly all of these parameters. And last but not least, we have the envelopes. Again, envelope 1 and 2 you can use to determine how you'd like to make effects. Envelope 3 you use to generally, create the sound. So you got your attack, your decay, your sustain, and your release. That's all you really need to know. So for this, I've pulled the attack up quite a bit because I didn't want it to snap in straight away. I wanted a bit of time for it to fade in. And I've given it a little bit of release for it to come down again, so it doesn't linger too long. It sort of comes in quite slowly, comes out fairly slowly, kind of quickly in between. So that's all you really need to know. So that's the ES2 synthesizer. Now we're going to look at the synth ring. So let's have a listen to it on its own. Now the idea of this is to give another sort of ring to what we recorded with the spatula. Let's have a listen to them together. So it just sounds like, by adding more frequencies, again, I've said it a lot, but it sounds more detailed. If we have a look at the MIDI notes I've used, I kind of just experimented with them, really. I found anything above C#7 was a bit too high and didn't sound believable. Anything below, what note is that? That's, oh god, that's embarrassing. I don't even know the notes. So C, B, A, there we go. Worked it out. So anything below A5, I found again wasn't realistic, sounded too low, didn't sound metallic, which is what we want. And you can there's other ways to sort of achieve this idea of adding more frequencies to the ring and making it sound a bit more, impressive. For example, if you had different sized metal spatulas or metal ladles, you can ring them, put them together. That'd probably do the same thing, give you some more rings. But if you don't have a house full of blades and swords that you can record, this is a good way to add some more frequencies. So as you can see, if I jump in the ES2 synthesizer, this one I've done a bit more with than the noise. With the noise, I just used one of the oscillators and left it like that. With this, I've used oscillator number 1, and I've set it to the sine wave. I've used the filters here. I've given it a peak, and I've tried to aim for around 2 kilohertz. Because if I play the ring on its own, we have a look at this multimeter. You see most of the detail is between 1.5 hertz and 4 kilohertz. Sorry, 1.5 kilohertz, not 1.5 hertz. We'll be able to hear it. Anyway, so ES2, that's what I've done. Got a filter. I've also modulated it a bit over here. I've used the LFO 1. I don't know what you call it. Oh, it's an LFO. I've used that to modulate it, as you can see. I've set the speed quite quickly. And again, I've used this sawtooth wave for it to determine it, the shape it will make. And again, with the envelope, taking some attack off because I didn't want it to come in snapping straight away. Gives it a bit more release, so it fades out a bit longer. If we listen to the noise on its own, and then listen to the synth ring, the sound lasts a little longer, which is what you want, really. You want it to ring out. And I kind of just try to match it for the same length as the high ring. But you can sort of mess around with that and experiment however you want. The other good thing about adding, some MIDI information is that if you were after a really long sword ring, you might find that you might struggle to record it all, in the sense that if you turned whatever you used to record the spatula, you might turn up the microphone quite high, record it, listen back to it, and you might find you've recorded quite a lot of noise, especially if you try and turn this up or cut off this beginning attack and just listen to the ring. As it rings out and you turn it up to try and capture more of the sound that you recorded, you're going to bring up a lot of noise as well. And there are programs to get rid of that. I'm pretty sure there's an Adobe noise reduction program out there somewhere. But they are quite expensive. I mean, Logic does have one, but it's not ideal. You do kind of lose some of the ring I messed that up. You do kind of lose some of the ring when you use the plugin, just as you try and remove some of the noise. So by using this synth ring and adding more frequencies that don't have any noise, we could sort of extend the ring of the sword or the ring of the spatula, which helps out quite a lot if you're on a budget and you can't use, your high grade fancy equipment. Cool. So all together, let's have a listen. So it sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty realistic, which is what we want. And there's a nice balance of, highs, mids, and lows again, like we always try and aim for. Cool. So that's a sort of realistic sword sound effect. Now, maybe if you're going for like a mystical, epic, maybe even anime kind of sword sound, you could use some effects. As you can see here, I've bussed the high ring, the synth ring, and the low ring. By the way, these are just names I've allocated to the tracks, so you can call them whatever you want. I've bussed them all to different buses, given them loads of different effects. Echo, add delays, this adds a bit of a shimmer. Space Designer, obviously give it a big reverb, make it sound larger than life. Chorus, again, that kind of gives it a shimmer. And Tremolo, which pans it between the left and the right. Speakers if you're listening to it through a stereo system. So let's turn these on and have a listen to it now. Now, it sounds pretty good. I'll probably bring up the lows and the mids a bit more in this to make it sound heavier, and that's going to give it more of an impact. There we go, you can feel it a bit more. In fact, what I might do is I'll take the noise and I'll give it a bit more release. And I'm going to do the same with the synth ring to really drag them out. Oh, see, the synth ring really, really hits you there. The noise, let's do a bit more of. Cool, bring these up a bit more. I could spend all day, trying to find the perfect way of balancing these. But yeah, you can just experiment. You can already see by adding these effects, it makes it sound a lot more bigger and epic. So it depends what you're going for, really. If you're going for more of a realistic sword swing, like maybe you're aiming for like old Templar Knights, you don't really want to add too much reverb. But if you want that epic anime sound effect, you can go for a lot more of effects with the reverb and the delays. Cool. So other than that, there's nothing really to show. So thanks again for watching. I'm going to try and keep up with these tutorials on the sounds I kind of use. Hopefully I'll be doing some more on Fmod and Unity. If you look at my channel, I've started an integration video. I'm going to do some more on actually adding sounds to games. So yeah, I've been Henry Scott. Thanks for watching.